Welcome to Your Music Saved Us, where two friends blast ourselves into the past to relive and recontextualize the alternative Christian music we grew up listening to in the 1990s. My name is Jay, and I'll be your host for today. And with me is poor old Clifton.
Mm-hmm.
Clifton, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, I think. Yeah, it's been cold and rainy here, but not that bad.
Yeah. It's the new year, beginning of 2024. Mm-hmm. We've had cold weather here too, so I don't know if that really means it's a good time to do with this album. I don't know if this album is really necessarily cold weather music, but you know. Anyway, we're here. So what are we listening to, Clifton?
We're listening to what I consider to be the pinnacle of Poor Old Lou's career. Not that their other albums weren't good, but there's just something special about this one. Their 1995 EP, Straight Six.
Where were we able to find this? Was this difficult to find?
No, it's everywhere. You can find it anywhere, really.
Yeah. Which is nice. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Was
this played in youth group?
You know, surprisingly not. Like, it could have been, but it wasn't.
Yeah, it's like...
I think just...
Our youth groups were not cool enough to play this.
Yeah, exactly.
At least stylistically, musically. Are we getting preached at?
I mean, yes, but like... Not like preached at again. You know, kind of like last time with Cody Hook. You know, it's kind of just... It's there. It's part of the DNA of what this is, but it's not like overly pushing anything on you.
It's a little more personal.
Yeah.
This is me rather than this is how you should be kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
mostly.
Before we go on, I want to remind everyone to visit patreon.com/YMSU to contribute to get extended episodes and check out all the bonus stuff. Again, thank you to all our patrons. Your contributions help fund this program that we use to record the podcast and web hosting fees and whatever else Clifton uses that small amount of money for, but we appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I mean, it's not enough to cover all that, but you know.
Okay, helps. Well, one day it will be. One day. I have a dream. Clifton, tell us a little bit about Poor Old Lou.
So I'm not going to do that really, because we've already covered Poor Old Lou once. Our very first episode covered their first album, Sin. Well, you know, their first major...
Their second album.
Sin. Okay. No, true. Good point. Okay. Because Mind Size was released, yeah. Okay. So I'm not going to go into a lot of depth here. I wanted to talk more about like the recording of this album and give some history, but I searched everywhere and I couldn't find a lot. But it is an interesting, you know, kind of how it happened, because it's not like they went into a studio and tried to record this entire thing as fast as possible. They actually took a month between April 18th and May 19th, 1995. That's in the liner notes for this album. But they spent this entire month in the studio writing and recording this album. And it was just them. They didn't have producers. They weren't hiring anybody, so they saved money that way. And it let them stay in the studio longer, but they just did it themselves and spent that month doing whatever they wanted to, recording songs however many times they wanted to. They had a lot of people come in and out. They said, you know, a lot of guest appearances, obviously, as far as instrumentation and hand claps and background vocals and things like that.
I think I think it was Scott that wrote it. In, you know, on the lyrics on this, Spotify, a bunch of places, there's some commentary too. And I think he said on one of the, when he was writing about this, that they wrote a lot of this actually during that month too. It's not like they came into it. Of course, I guess you wouldn't take a month if you knew what you were doing, but like they, you know, they kind of developed a lot of it during that time period. And in my opinion, this is kind of like Poor Old Lou's like experimental EP. It's not like that weird, but it's
but it's different.
Yeah, and a lot of the songs, like there's not they're all a little different from each other, kind of. It doesn't flow maybe thematically or sonically like some of their other albums do, and that's fine. It's fun. But it
fills up a piece, though.
No, I mean, it's not like jarring or anything. It's just this is kind of, you can tell where they were like, oh, we got some time. Let's mess around. And that's kind of what we have here, which is fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Clifton, do you remember like how this came into your life?
No. I think I found it like even after Eighth Wonder of the World came out, right? So this album is between Sin and Eighth Wonder of the World, which Sin came out in 94 or 90, 94, and Eighth Wonder came out in 96. And so I think I found it later, probably like 97, 98. I remember I was later in high school. I was a junior or senior in high school. So it wasn't when it came out, it was just kind of one of those things that I saw on the shelf a bunch, and eventually I gave it a try, and I really liked it. I think I'd already listened to Eighth Wonder and I enjoyed it, but then this one kind of hit me in a different way. I think just because it is a little experimental. It is so personal. It has a different feel from other Poor Old Lou stuff.
Yeah. I think I must have picked this up around the time it came out, because at this point, Poor Old Lou was my favorite band.
Yeah.
And I think I was looking this up. I think if I have this right, this came out right after their Sit and Stare video compilation, which I don't know how many times I watched. Because this is that age. A lot of you will probably remember this age in your life where you've kind of started to develop your own interest and feeling like you have some groups like this on your own, like Poor Old Lou was my band. But I can't drive yet, so it's very limiting on some of this stuff. So you end up watching those VHS tapes a whole lot with you and your friends, because there's just like not a lot of other things to do. So yeah, this came out around then. I also do not remember exactly how or when, but I definitely remember listening to it at the time.
Cool.
Anything, I don't know, stand out from your memories with it? Do you remember your first experience with it?
I remember experience with it. I remember, and we'll talk about it a little bit later in more depth, but I just remember sitting in my car listening to it before school one time, and I had to listen to every time I listened to this album, I always listened to it all the way through. I don't think I ever really listened to a song. It was always listened to in a whole. And I remember that it was at the time, I felt like it was very different than what I was listening to, which was mostly, punk and ska type stuff, and a little bit of poppier stuff like Cosmos Express, but it felt even different than all that. And, it felt more thoughtful, but in a personal way, not thoughtful in like a Black Eyed Skiva kind of way, because Black Eyed Skiva always felt like a smart person's band, But this felt more thoughtful, kind of in a personal, kind of struggling type way. And, it wasn't... I didn't listen to this a lot, right? Because it was just it was too much, right? It was too big, I think, for me at the time. I wasn't really a deep thinker in high school. So experiencing this as a whole, which I always did, was kind of I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do something else, right? I'm not going to just listen to this on repeat or something.
So either you got to school really early or you were late that day, because this is not that short of an EP.
Right. So no, we had really bad parking at my high school. And so the only way to get a parking spot that wasn't a mile away was to get there an hour before classes started.
Okay. So you're just hanging out, listening to this, chilling. Yeah. Okay. I got it.
You have any of those impactful memories?
No. I wish I did, because I really loved Poor Old Lou, but this specifically, I don't have a ton. I mean, I remember hearing it and I remember all these songs, but I don't have any main thing that comes to me. Although I do wonder if this is the first time I heard Jeremy Enoch. I don't know if I don't think I'd heard Sunny Day Real Estate separately.
Definitely the first time
yet,
I had. Yeah.
Which is really funny when you think about it, because they're such a bigger band separately. But it really highlights kind of so much of like what we showcase on this podcast, right? Is that like little isolated kids like us in our own little weird worlds. This is how we're exposed to Sunny Day Real Estate, is like his one-off appearance on a Christian band's EP that just happened to be guys he went to high school with, which is kind of mind-blowing when you think about it. So, you know, that song Digging Deep always stood out in my mind, but I don't have any like specific memories. So
interesting.
I know. Okay. I know. So, you know, I don't know, what were you thinking before you played it again? Had you listened to this much since high school?
Yes. Not a lot, but, you know, every now and then. So I knew what to expect. I will say that it was hard to sit down and do this, like sit down and prepare for this episode. Like, just because I felt like I owed this album a lot, right?
Aww.
You know, so I felt like it was hard to like force myself to sit down because it's kind of weighty, you know, and I'm not sure, and I wasn't sure that I had like the words, you know, to properly express kind of the swirl of emotions and thoughts that I knew would come with listening to this again, and also that I experienced when I was a teenager, you know. So it was hard to sit down and dig into. Okay,
well, I'm like kind of intrigued to jump into this with you then. Good. Well, we can jump in. Anything else before we jump into the music?
Did you remember these songs?
I did. Yeah, okay. For sure. Although some were stuck out to me more than others, and I think that's probably just fair, like on this album as a whole. Like I remembered Lie, Lie, Lie.
Yes.
I remembered Digging Deep. I remembered For the Love of My Country. Those were the three I remembered the most. The other ones came back to me, but are not as strong.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, fair.
All right, should we jump into it?
Let's do it.
All right, Clifton, song number 1, Lie, Lie, Lie.
All right, so this track starts out with like some kind of like deep buzzing in the background kind of thing, and like a little drum count that feels like it's like distorted and feels like it's far away kind of thing. Then we have a good guitar riff that comes in with the whole band, and this song is dominated by Scott's vocals and hand claps. But it's dominated by Scott's vocals over kind of like almost like jangly guitar and drums that feel, you know, Jesse's a very busy drummer, you know.
I was going to say the same thing.
So, you know, it almost feels like it's kind of like under control manic drumming kind of thing. And this song has a very sunny and lighthearted feel to it. And so we get the first verse. There's like no break into the chorus. We get some kind of like overdriven notes, guitar riff into the chorus with Scotty muttering the lyrics, you know, like lie, 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 why do I look so hard? But like with like an upbeat feel, like which does not feel like how you should sing the song, the line lie, 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 you know.
Good point. Yeah. And
then we get like right back in, like there's no break. And then we get like right back into the second verse, you know, which makes the song kind of feel once again kind of like manic and kind of like it's just moving, right? Through the second verse and the chorus, the song has a very sunny disposition. You know, it just feels like there's, you know, like there's something behind it, though, right? There's like a little something darker going on behind it. And in the second verse, we get probably my favorite lyrics off of the EP, which are sick of words like trust and hope and hey man, you got to be good. But if I want, I'll sit and stare all day at the clouds like I wish I could. And just as suddenly, once again, we're as we're pushed from every kind of movement to movement in this song, we hit this bridge with a very, very poor old Lou minor chord. Always minor chords that go into bridges for poor old Lou for some reason. And Scott's vocals take on kind of like a quivering tremolo arpeggio guitar thing with some like haunting background vocals. And the bridge ends with the narrator kind of coming to a realization, which we'll talk about a little bit more. when we talk about the lyrics, but it's very, I fell to my knees instead kind of thing, like a parade. As the music turns kind of bright and sunny again, and we get a guitar solo that feels like it's like straight out of the sunny 70s Southern California type thing. That's kind of just her take on the kind of like guitar riff that's over the chorus. Another verse, the chorus, and the song ends on a minor chord and the sound of someone dropping a tambourine now that they're done with it.
I will also say, I think this is Poor Old Blues, maybe the poppiest song they wrote.
Yes.
Like during their entire existence. I'm sure that could be argued, but it's up there, if not the poppiest. It is also, you pointed out when it kind of shifts into minor chord, but for most of it, it's pretty happy sounding.
Yes.
Which a lot of Poor Old Blue is more minor chordish, not as happy sounding.
Right.
They're not like a super dark band, but it just, if this is the first Poor Old Blue song you ever heard, you may be disappointed because the rest of the band, the rest of their stuff does not sound
not
like
this. Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons I explained all that really fast without playing anything is because that's always how it felt to me as a kid. Like I always just felt like this song just kind of blows past you really fast. It's almost 4 minutes long, but it just feels like it just passes by so fast. And I remember the first time I heard it, or maybe one of the first times I heard it, I remember it hitting so hard. Like I said, I was in my car, got into school early because the parking situation sucked. We had to get there really early. And I remember this song, and then throughout the rest of the album, like I just remember kind of being almost like paralyzed, just kind of like sitting and listening to the album in stunned silence. Kind of just like I don't know. It just hit me really hard. That first time I listened to it. Musically, this is just a 4-chord rock song arrangement kind of thing, They kind of move the chords around a little bit throughout the song to do different things. And I'm not smart enough to know what gives it that kind of Poor Old Lou sound, but there's a few things I want to look at. I'm going to play the intro here a little bit so we can get kind of that jangly feel of the song. So you see there, we got the clap in the background.
Right.
Which is not a Poor Old Lou thing at all.
No.
And the writer for the song, we'll talk about it a little bit later, they said they brought in like their dads and some like friends and stuff to sing the background vocals in this song and do the hand claps and stuff like that. But it's a very, very poppy song, like you said, not typical Poor Old Lou. And one thing that I want to go back a little bit there and kind of isolate Scott's vocals in that first verse, because I've always been curious, like what it is that gives Scott that kind of unique sound. I mean, part of it is just his tone, like his voice, and how he enunciates in his rhythm. But there's also a little bit of recording trick going on here that I think is worth looking into. And now that I have this tool that I can separate all of the tracks out for the most part and listen back to them. I want to let's listen to just the vocals here.
Shadow 7 hours a day, yeah, weekends that go too fast. I set my sights for boardwalk streets and a sunset that will last. I grab my coat and
So there's a little bit of reverb there, but not a lot. But mostly what's going on is he has several tracks mixed together that are, and there's a little bit of wavering to his voice that are a little bit different in each track. And that's giving it this feel that, like, on a guitar, for example, there's an effect called chorus. And what it does is it doubles your signal, and it takes one of them and kind of detunes it just a hair, at kind of random, while also playing your original signal. So you can kind of hear the the clash between those two things. I think that's a lot of what is giving Scott his sound here is kind of that chorus kind of effect that's becoming from multi-tracking, that with just a little bit of like kind of, like a pitch shifter kind of thing going on that's just changing the pitch a little bit. I think he's doing it. I don't think he's using an effect to do that. I think he's doing it himself with just several overlays of singing it several times. But I think that kind of, Poor Lou's always had this kind of, as you said, they play in minor keys a lot, right? And they always have this kind of like uneasy feel to it. And I think that kind of helps give this song this kind of uneasy feel. Like, right, it's bright, it's shiny, it has a sunny disposition, but it, like I said, it has kind of you feel like there's a darkness going on it too. I think that kind of helps to give this song that kind of wavering, kind of uneasy feel. I also want to isolate just the guitars here for the verse and into. I'm going to play the last part of the verse and into the chorus here. One thing I noticed there, Jay, is that I never think of Poor Lou as Aaron playing an acoustic guitar, but that's an acoustic guitar, and only at the chorus there, and kind of in the bridge and stuff, a second layer of guitars comes over the electric guitar doing the kind of one note walks there, But yeah, it's an acoustic guitar. That's the jingly sound there.
Huh. Okay. I thought it might have been just non-distorted electric guitar, but
nope. It has that very distinct kind of sound hole compression that an acoustic guitar has, where it kind of blends all the notes together. With electric guitar, unless you're using like a really advanced kind of acoustic simulator, which do exist, but they're not that good. Not that I've ever heard. They still sound a little harsh. This doesn't sound harsh. This sounds like just an acoustic guitar being mic'd. It's a poppy song. Let's go to this kind of the bridge here where we get the darkness a little bit. Guitar solo. I love Jesse's drums there go to just toms for the kind of mellowed out bridge. It gives it a nice weighty feel to it. And what's his name? The bassist. Nick. Nick's bass there is really good too. As far as it's kind of in the background for most of the bridge there, but then it kind of comes on strong again, going there back into the chorus. Just those two things, like if you listen to this without the guitar, I actually sent Jay a track without the guitar, so it was just literally vocals, drums, and bass. It's actually still a very interesting song to listen to. There's so much going on. And by the way, one thing I'm going to do on this album, just because I have done it, is in the Patreon. If you're a Patreon, we're not just going to upload the album art this time. We're also going to upload. I'm going to upload all of the separated tracks for all six tracks here. So you can play with them if you want to, if you're that kind of nerd.
I thought it was interesting without the guitar because that bass, and drums really still push it along. Like, do-do-dum, 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 do. Yeah, it's just, again, as somebody that was a big Poor Old Lou fan, this song is very different from most of
Yes.
theirs. And I'm going to go ahead and say this right now. I may be wrong. I'm giving myself an out, but in my mind, I really thought that Jesse wrote this song. I might be wrong. I may have just read that somewhere 20 or 30 years ago. You know, like I somewhere I thought this was one he wrote. I could not find nothing to verify that. So possibly I'm wrong. Somebody out there that is a bigger Poor Old Blue fan than me may know the truth. But anyway, it might help explain why it has such a different sound.
Yeah. I don't have none of the print things I have any Poor Old Blue interviews in them. And nothing I could find online did they discuss who wrote what. You know, they kind of talked about in some of the interviews they talked about kind of their method for writing, you know, but none of them they acknowledged who kind of originally contributed to what song or anything.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this song, you know, it's probably one of the reasons this EP, I like this EP better because it does start with kind of this jangly pop song. You know, if it hadn't been for this song, I may have had a much different relationship with this EP.
Fair, it does draw you in. It'd be weird to stick this anywhere else on the EP.
Yeah, and we'll get it. Like we should jump into the lyrics here, but you know, emotionally, I think it's kind of where this EP has to start. It's kind of struggling with certain things.
So, what is this song about, Clifton?
All right, you want me to read the lyrics here? No AI help.
Okay, good.
They're not long. All right. So tired of 7 hours a day and weekends that go too fast. I set my sights on boardwalk streets and a sunset that will last. I grabbed my coat and told my friends that I was going away. Just a few long miles and a few good smiles, and I'll have my love today. Ooh, lie, 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 why must I look so hard? Ooh, lie, 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 must I be so far? Second verse. Intent on a life that is what I dream, I set out to be free. Turn my cheek on my beliefs with whatever in front of me. Sick of words like trust and hope and hey man, you gotta be good. But if I want, I'll sit and stare all day at the clouds like I wish I could. And then it goes into the chorus again, but then we'll skip that and go to the bridge here. And just for tonight, a place to rest my head. My eyes were heavy, but I found no peace in this bed. With the silence around, I felt so alone again, while I closed my eyes with lifted hands and I fell to my knees instead. And then the last verse here kind of does a little play on the first verse again. Tired of tears and a broken heart and love that fades too fast, I set my sights for golden streets and a joy that will ever last. So in the first verse, I think, you know, this song feels like someone who, you know, is just tired of the boring everyday grind, you know, that doesn't seem to go anywhere or mean anything. So they leave it behind to find something interesting.
Can we just pause there for a second? He's complaining about a 7-hour workday. I think a lot of us would be like, I'm bad, man.
I know. I struggled with myself on whether or not I was going to bring that up because yes, I would love a 7-hour workday,
okay.
Right? Like,
I understand just probably for the rhyme, it just had to be 7 because it's, you know, 2 syllables. But I was every time I heard this, I was like, 7, not that bad. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. 8 doesn't work. 9 doesn't work. Right. 10 doesn't work. 6 doesn't work. How about 7 is kind of the only.
How about 11? That was maybe that's what they should have said.
Ooh, there we go. Yeah.
That's 3 syllables. So anyway, I see why they did it, but 7's not that bad.
Yeah. In the second verse, we still kind of have a bit of that feeling, but we get the strange line, turn to my cheek on my beliefs, which is kind of funny because, like, you don't turn your cheek on a belief, right? Like, turning a cheek is what you do when someone, like, offends you, right? Like, or you know, like, that's what, you know, it's from the Sermon on the Mount. You know, when Jesus says, turn your cheek when someone hits you, basically, right? Give them the other cheek to hit you again. You know, so it's kind of weird to say turn my cheek on my beliefs, but it's you know, it feels good in the mouth. I think it comes off well. And like I said, the next part of the verse there is one of my favorite lines in the entire EP, because I've definitely been sick of words like trust and hope and hey man, you gotta be good because they don't mean anything, right? They're just empty, and they're often used as weapons against people who think for themselves. You know, they're meant to stop thought. There's a word for there's a phrase or something like that for words that are meant to not further conversation but end them. You know, so these aren't things that are meant to encourage you. These aren't things that are meant to have a conversation. They're just meant to be like, hey, shut the fuck up and get and suck it up. You know, like just got it, man.
Just gotta trust God. Just gotta trust. Just gotta have faith.
Exactly.
It's yeah. It's so like, I think is, not to get us too off track, but I think as kids growing up in this, like, you just got shut down so many times when you had a certain emotion or a certain feeling or something really going on in your life. Cause like, well, you just got to pray and trust God. And you're like, yeah, but you know,
give it up and let God.
I'm struggling right now to use it. And I think all it taught us was just to like shove that stuff deep down.
Yes.
Which now as an adult that's trying to get in touch with his emotions is still a challenge because of all this. So, yes. Slight tangent, but yes, I think any of us that grew up in this can relate.
Yeah. And even if you didn't choose to get in touch with your emotions, as my therapist would say, your body remembers.
Oh, right? Yeah. And sometimes, like me recently, when somebody cut me off and I lost my goddamn mind in the car, I was like, whoa, where did that come from? Because it wasn't just that guy. Like, so yes, sometimes they come out in funny ways.
Yes, exactly. Not always what we expect, and not always in the way we appreciate.
Nope.
So then all of a sudden, for some reason in the bridge, we find our narrator alone and empty. And who hasn't felt that way, right? But I hate this fucking bridge. Because it's just so fucking pat you on the head resolution, like, oh, are you in a low place? That's when God does his best hunting because he's a fucking predator. You know? I just... you know, I understand what's being gone for here, which is that, like, well, the only reason you feel empty is because you don't have God. But I think what I find really annoying and almost offensive about this song, the lyrics for this song, you know, is that it assumes that anyone who wants something different than just a mundane life, that person isn't thoughtful enough to examine their life as they go. And they'll just, by default, descend into hedonistic debauchery, you know? And that's a simple story to tell, but it's too simple. It's not true to life, right? It's not true to who people are. And then the answer here, once again, is far too simple. You know, it's just mind-numbing. Just got it, man. Rub some God in that wound, you know?
No, you're right. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you're right. It's basically the same thing. Like he's saying, I'm sick of words like trust and hope and hey, man, you got to be good. Yeah. But then when he hits this moment of like, oh, I'm finding no peace, he just falls to his knees, lifts his hands, and boom, everything's okay. Like,
right. Like, is that how it works?
They told him to do the first place. Like, I don't. Yeah, I'm with you. It just seems real nice and neat. And it also is a little bit weird because it, you know, when there's a online, Scott explains this and he says, let me find it. It starts with this is quote, it starts with a typical person who's tired of the day-to-day grind and sets out to find something more fulfilling. In the process, they leave behind all the things they've grown up believing. The bridge is a turnaround point where our subject ends up in a hotel room alone and confused and finally turns to the Lord. And I just like, I don't know if he really, in the lyrics song, got across that as much as he wanted to. I mean, it's clear overall that's the gist, but like, you're right. All he does is say like, I'm sick of words like trust and hope and hey man, you got to be good. But if I want, I'll sit and stare all day at the clouds like I wish I could. I wish I could do that. I mean, that sounds pretty fucking great. Like, and I don't see why that's like a problem. It's not like he went off the deep end and started killing people or something. He just like, that's all he did. I don't know. It sounds pretty great. It's like actually you could have a lot of self-actualization that way. So anyway, I don't know why he finds himself in a hotel room alone and lonely after that.
I think Jay, that the evangelical culture, and probably, that it's not just from evangelical culture, but I'm saying from where we came from, that evangelical culture, I think it has a lot of like duty and obligation and what's the word I'm looking for? Starts with an R. Responsibility, wrapped up in it. That like you're responsible for being a productive member of society, right? You're not allowed to just be a person. You have to contribute in a way that other people find worthy and with no regard to your own mental health or your own well-being. I think that because of what American society is, I think that is largely wrapped up in kind of the puritanical mindset of what has turned into our late stage capitalism here, And so I think that by him saying, what if I just want to look at the clouds? They're saying, too bad, because you gotta be the person we expect you to be, You're not allowed to be a human. You gotta be this thing over here. So I think that's a lot of it, and I know this is something I struggle with. I mean, I spend a lot of time with my therapist talking about other people's expectations and what I feel my expectations of myself kind of thing, so I think there's a lot of that. At least I see that kind of wrapped up into this where, like you said, it's not like this person is killing people. It's not, this isn't even a very good, like what's the parable, the
prodigal son.
Yeah. This isn't even a very good prodigal son thing. Like he's in a hotel. We don't know why he's in a hotel, but it's not like, and there I was in a hotel snorting coke again, like it just so happens that he's in a hotel, right? And he happens to be alone. And I think that religion, and I think Christianity especially, preys on people in vulnerable situations and gives them an easy answer that for some people works, at least in the short term, but for a lot of us doesn't and never has and isn't going to. And for those of us that it doesn't work for, we are made out as if that's something wrong with us. Right?
Yeah.
That we're the ones that are like, we're, that just saying, hey, God is there isn't enough for us, which of course the Christians listening to this will be like, oh, it's not just that God is there saying it. It's like he's actually there. But okay, well, sure, fine. Okay. You can feel what you want to in your heart, but I'm trying to talk about reality over here, not to belittle anyone. But I think that because that's not enough for us, we're made out to be the bad guy. We're made out to be too broken to fix. We're the lost causes, I think. Which is why I find this song offensive now.
This song just feels kind of, lyrically at least, what's the right way to say it? It's just kind of gone with the evangelical expectations of the time. Like he just ties a neat little bow around it. Oh, he looked around for something else, but then he came back to God and now he's all good. I don't know. Seems really simple. Like,
yes, overly simple.
Yeah.
And not in a way even that I think some people will be like, oh, well, it's a song. You got to shorten things and got to compress it into a short story, And I don't think that's enough excuse here for the simplicity of the songwriting or of the, and not to be an asshole to Scott or anything like that. I mean, we know where he was coming from, right? We were these people at one point, but I think that a lot of people who that's enough for, God is there, that's enough for them, I think that they don't struggle with the same kind of mental health issues, kind of, you know, chemical imbalances that some of us do, you know. And so they have it easier there. And I think also, so a lot of these people, I don't think they've ever really had a problem in their lives. Like, I know that sounds like I'm an asshole, but I don't think they have had a real struggle. They've just had a semi-charmed life, to borrow a phrase, you know.
baby.
You know, and not to say their life's been easy or anything like that, but I'm saying that they haven't really, if you've never felt that, if you've never, not even never, but if you haven't lived in that place for extended periods of time, you know, then I don't think you can appreciate what those of us who have are going through and why that's not enough.
Yeah, fair.
All right. Jay, this album is one of the albums that was covered in Medium's look back on 1995.
Chrindie 95? Yeah.
Yeah. So let me read real fast what they wrote about this song. It said, jangly 90s art pop and I don't know what this word is, Paean.
You say paean? How do you say that?
I don't know. I've never even heard that word before, right? Okay. Whatever. And of whatever to an unfulfilled life, quote, tired of 7 hours a day and weekends that go too fast, set my sights on boardwalk streets and a sunset that will last. Scott Hunter's protagonist searches for something better than a workaday existence. But since he's not sure where to look, he ends up doing whatever makes him feel good. When he intones, tired of tears and a broken heart and love that fades too fast, I set my sight for golden streets and a joy that will ever last. He realizes he's forsaken his beliefs and lied to himself in pursuit of an empty life filled with transient pleasures. So he stops his fruitless quest and starts to pray. And Jay, I feel like, you know, pursuit of an empty life filled with transient pleasures describes Christianity for me. Does that mean?
No.
It's not the only time we're going to hit on something like this in this, and talking about this album. But, yeah, you know, I think that, you know, it's simple and that's, you know, I mean, I'm not saying that's all there ever is in Christianity, but we'll talk about it when we get to this album, that, you know, I always thought of this as a thinking Christian's album, you know? Mm-hmm. And one of my big disappointments with going back to this album was just how it was still all those same pat answers.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm with you. I still really like this musically, and some of the lyrics I like. But going back and kind of dissecting the lyrics through this, I was like, this isn't, there's not a ton there.
It's kind of pitiful that for decades I've thought of this as a thinking and feeling Christian's album.
Yeah. I mean, I think musically it's doing some interesting stuff.
Oh, it is.
This is no audio adrenaline.
This is a great album. I love this EP. That doesn't change, right? But lyrically, it is disappointing to look back on.
Would you say it's bittersweet?
Track 2. All right, so this is a long song. It's almost 6 minutes long. And it's a bit rambunctious. Like it's not like fast. It's actually a pretty slow song. But it's rambunctious in kind of like a noisy, kind of cacophonous type way. And the second half of it is dominated by a cello.
Which is great, by the way. Like,
it is.
I think it so fucking makes the song. Like,
yes.
To me, just side note, this song and the next one sound a lot like more like what you think of classic Poor Old Lou sounding. Mm-hmm. But I love the cello brought into this. I really think it makes the song.
I agree. Yeah. Although this is a pretty slow song for Poor Old Lou, I would say. So even though the song is going to get kind of a little raucous, a little noisy, it starts off pretty mellow on a rather somber C minor chord. This is in F minor key. And a really lethargic, like I said, slow. 60 beats per minute, Jay. That is a slow song. But it has like these random noises going on in the background that sounds like maybe like wind chimes, like maybe a guitar cable like jiggling in like in an amp, like a like kind of sound, The whole song kind of has these random noises going on. I really love when that bass comes in. It's like, boom. It's great. But the guitars kind of have like I explained the chorus effect earlier. This is kind of like that chorus or a phaser effect, something like that. And kind of like a shimmery thing going on as well to make it sound a little bit dissonant, a little bit haunting. I think we're getting a real haunting feel here. It's kind of picking a couple notes and then just like strumming the rest of a chord. And so, like I said, it's just. Listen, even as the drums come in here, right, in this next section, they're just like plodding. It's just like blah, blah, blah. But Scott's vocals, as always, are amazing. He has a nice little falsetto thing going on here.
As sweet as it was, or as sweet as it seemed. Like the most magnificent wonder, it was just a dream, and it shook me all up.
So you see there, we have the guitars going on, but I don't know exactly what's going on there. There's probably some kind of like delay effect or something like that that's repeating some stuff. Because even though the guitars are really simple, they feel like really messy, kind of like there's a lot going on.
Yeah, for sure.
And as we get into the chorus, you'll see that the guitars kind of go a little bit. They're not crazy. It's not like he goes off on a wild solo or something like that. But they just get a little too much, honestly. And Scott's vocals kind of hang on this, I don't know.
Me cold and wanting, 'cause it had no ground, oh, none to be found.
So we get some background vocals there. It's if you listen to this in headphones. By the way, listen to this in headphones because everything is panned like really far, one direction or the other, and it's kind of like those background vocals are all in the right speaker, and they just it feels disorienting. There's the word I'm looking for. Feels disorienting. So, like I said, the guitars get a little bit rambunctious there. They get more rambunctious as the song goes on. We'll get into it. Now, in fact, I think the build into the second chorus, I'm just going to skip to it because I think the build into the second chorus is a little bit better than that build into the chorus. And the second chorus gets a little more interesting. I shivered and felt like a leaf to the fourth floor where I was before. Feels very Poor Old Blue to me.
Yeah. This is feels like a pretty standard Poor Old Blue song. And I feel like what makes the song kind of rise above that is the cello when that comes in.
Yes. Let's get to that part, Jay. So after, a couple of verses and choruses, we eventually get to a bridge. And the song structures haven't been, and they're not going to be super complicated on this album, Jay. we get verse, chorus, bridge. The bridges almost always have vocals to them, and then typically we get like the chorus again, but with an instrumental chorus this time, and then maybe another verse and chorus and out. All the songs have almost the exact same arrangement. But you know what? It doesn't matter because they still sound good. They're rich, they're interesting, and as fun as the song has been so far, and noisy and fun and all that, we're gonna get this. We're gonna get the cello here. And that goes into another verse. It's a shortened verse this time, and actually the second chorus actually goes on for a little bit, and this chorus is going to be a pretty short one too. Which I think is a good thing because we already had kind of a little bit too much guitars going on in the chorus, and we're going to add on top of that the cello this time, right? So I think it's a good thing they kept this last chorus here short, but I think I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm saying I think they knew what they were doing songwriting wise. They wanted to create something that felt like it was overwhelming, and I think they do a really good job. I'll play a little along there. That bridge, we kind of get Scott mumbling some things under his breath a little bit with the cello really dominating there. And the cello doesn't seem like it's on a mission. It seems a little just wandering around and doing its own thing, and every once in a while it's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna play a little riff here, and then it just goes back into wandering a little bit, But I think it works really well. I don't know. This is a gorgeous song.
Yeah, it's a little bit jam bandy here with the cello, but I like it. Like it gets real weird towards the end, and like doing all this stuff, and it's great. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's play the outro here with the cello.
So good.
Gorgeous.
It's
and I love Jesse's drum. They're just kind of going off on the drums there.
Everything else kind of fades out too. Like I think
the drums stay.
Yeah, but they keep the drums in. It's very nice. Yeah, I was kind of like, man, I forgot how good this part of the song was when I was going back through it for this. Yeah,
and they mention a lot, by the way. Let me read the little explanation here from the band. One of the most notable features of this song is the haunting cello track by our friend Phil Peterson. We wanted this track to be full of sounds, so we kept adding things and building it up. The result is a strangely emotional song. We get persuaded by things that look right, that look inviting. Let's get into the lyrics. We'll come back to it. Okay. All right. I think it's a really beautiful song. like I said, the cello is just, it's almost never too much. You could like with the cello kind of thing, you can easily kind of get gimmicky with it, I don't feel like it ever did that. It does different things. It goes in different directions. It meanders a bit. I don't feel like it ever just gets really, it's not just there doing one single thing over and over again.
Nice. No, it's really fun. Yeah, and it's not too much because it's not even through the whole song. It just like comes in for the end, does all that cool stuff, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really just the second half of the song.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't talked about it yet, but after, between every track, there's kind of these weird soundscapes, say, for like 10 seconds or so. I'm going to play the one between this and the next one.
This is another reason I say this is their experimental EP because, stuff like that at the end of every song.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. Should we dive into the lyrics here?
Let's do it.
All right. I'll read them again. As sweet as it was, or as sweet as it seemed, like the most magnificent wonder that was just a dream. And it shook me all up, and it stirred me around. But it left me cold and wanting, because it had no ground, none to be found. And why, nope. And I know why, and then the background vocals are saying, know why I sell myself short. And I know why, and the background vocals are saying, know why I sell my Savior small. But it won't make me cry tonight. The beauty was such, and immeasurably so. My eyes were alive and bright to the blinding glow. And as I embraced to love it more, I shivered and fell like a leaf to the forest floor where I was before. Go back into the chorus here, but this chorus is a little bit extended after the but it won't make me cry. The background vocals say, why do we stand there? And then Scott comes back in with, in constant fear, almost near. Last verse here, or maybe this is a bridge. As if my only thought and my only breath, I gave and I gave and I gave till I'd nothing left except consequence. We go back into the chorus here. This one's also a little bit extended. After the in constant fear, almost near, the background vocals say again, why do we stand there? And then Scott comes back in with, without a care, though so aware. I think they're beautiful lyrics. I find it expressive, especially you combine the lyrics with Scott's presentation through his vocals. I think it's really great. Do you have any thoughts on it before I go into my little spiel here?
Well, I would have less had I not read what they wrote again about kind of the meaning of the song.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and read that?
So he says, quote, we get persuaded by things that look right, that look inviting, though they may sometimes fill temporary needs that can never fulfill us. If we then choose to chase after these things, we are left to deal with the results of our actions. He says, in the midst of all this, the chorus is dealing with the knowledge of our wrong actions. Like when he says, why do we stand there in constant fear, though so aware? When what we need to do is turn to the Lord and throw these things down at his feet. Amen. End quote. And I guess for me, I'm kind of detecting a theme so far, which is like being drawn away by things that look great, but somehow are really not good for you.
Anything, really. Anything that's not God.
Yeah. I don't know. That's all I've got. I would love to hear your thoughts, though.
So I'm going to talk about two little sections here. The first one actually is the bridge, which is, as if my only thought and my only breath, I gave and I gave and I gave till I'd nothing left except consequence. I think in this song, it's supposed to mean something like, I sought pleasure in other things. until I had nothing left except consequence. But that's not what I get out of it. Like, that's not the meaning I've heard in it over the years. For me, once again, I want to go back to that sense of responsibility, that I think lives large in the evangelical mind. Once again, this is something I talk to my therapist a lot about, is that as if my only thought and my only breath, I gave and I gave and I gave, is that I find myself a lot kind of just sacrificing my own, anything I want, my own desires, my own needs even, for what I perceive as responsibilities or obligations kind of thing. And I give and I give and I give until I have nothing left except consequences, right? And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying it's something I do unconsciously, right? Like it's a bandwidth problem, right? Like there's only so much of you to give, right? There's only so much of you to go around, and you have to be thoughtful about where you give that to. And I've always been a strong believer that I want the world to be a better place, and so I try to give of myself to make the world a better place in whatever small way I can. But sometimes even those small things have bigger repercussions, have tolls on you that you don't realize. And that's something I've kind of connected with in this song. Although looking back on it now, really digging into the lyrics, that's not what he's saying here,
I know. Yeah, it's kind of disappointing because I think in a lot of ways, growing up in church, you're kind of taught just to give and give and give. Because as long as it's for God, then it's okay. And there's really no way to be exhausted. Even if you seem exhausted, you're not really exhausted because you got to keep giving for God.
God will fill you back up.
Exactly.
He'll fill your tank right back up.
Right.
Yeah. That doesn't seem to be the case. There's plenty of burnt out Christians who follow, what they think is God leading them right into burnout and the consequence of giving too much.
Also, side note, I'm going to stick a pin in this because this is not what this episode's about, but at some point we should talk about how much of current churches run on unpaid labor. It is ridiculous. Yes. It's wrong. It's awful, especially when how much some of these like church pastors are making, and the fact that they still rely on all volunteers to make all their stuff run. Side note, sorry, I know that's not what this is about, but at some point,
and that's the thing, right? It's like it feels fulfilling, right? And it is fulfilling.
It does,
like,
yeah. You have a place, you have a purpose, you have a part to play.
It's amazing. It's wonderful, right? And like, I in some ways miss that, and I'm happy a lot of times to give of myself until I have nothing left to give, right? Like I love making things happen, not like for me, but just for other people. It's part of what I do as an architect, right? It's like I organize and I synthesize and I bring things together so that something works, right? And I love that. I think it's fulfilling emotionally. I'm going to use the word spiritually here in quotes, and nothing bad about that, right?
Yeah.
But you are right, Jay, in that becomes a predatory situation.
Right.
All right. I want to talk about the second part of the first verse here, which is, I said this would come back up, and it shook me all up, and it stirred me around, but it left me cold and wanting, because it had no ground, none to be found. Once again, Jay, I feel like that is my experience with Christianity.
Yeah, that's not what they meant, but fair.
Yes. I think part of that is, it's hard to explain this without getting way too personal, but I think there's a lot of, I'm going to use this word, but I want you to understand that I'm using it with nuance. There's a lot of superstition in any kind of supernatural belief. Paul, for example, he sets out to sail to Rome and he doesn't get there. And so he's like, oh, the devil caused it, right? Well, because you didn't get there? Is that the reason the devil caused it, not God? Like, if you had gotten there, that'd have been God, right? But you didn't get there, so that was the devil, right? And that kind of mindset is very, there's no ground to it. There's no ground. There's no solid ground to it, because why was that the devil? Or was it God? Maybe God didn't want you to go. Maybe you thought God wanted you to go, but he really didn't because you misinterpreted it, and you just, maybe that's what you wanted. Maybe that's what you wanted. Maybe that was just your own heart's desire and you wanted to get there to Rome, and that wasn't God. Maybe people who don't overthink these type of things, first off, fuck you for existing. And second off, like, good for you, right? Like, I envy that kind of what is the word I'm looking for here, Jay? Like believing in yourself that much that you don't double and triple overthink everything, right? Because if I didn't get to Rome, I wouldn't have been like, that was the devil. I would have been like, oh shit, maybe God didn't want me to do that. Did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? When did I start doing wrong? Oh shit, have I never known God? Have I always been making this up? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just superstition. When you get down to it, at the end of the day, there's no ground.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
And that's why that is my experience with Christianity. All right. Anything else we want to talk about with this song? Oh, should we read the Medium thing?
Well, I read most of it for this.
You didn't read the Medium. You read
the Medium. Yeah, you're right. No. Go ahead. Read us the chrindie 95.
All right. This prayer, he's talking about the prayer that ended the previous song, commences with bittersweet as he questions his motives in light of his broken relationship with the Savior. Passages like, and it shook me all up, and it stirred me around, but it left me cold and wanting, because it had no ground, oh, none to be found, come straight out of the darker Psalms like the 22nd, Job, or Jeremiah. The trials are hard, and the way is unclear, but you might be better off trusting God, even if you're not sure what's happening. The emotional weight of the track is bolstered by a heady brew of swirling electric guitar noise, rich bass runs, and powerful drum fills. That part I think is right. I think this guy does a great job of explaining the album musically, or capturing it, in little one-liners. But man, his take on the lyrics is super Christian.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else about this song we want to talk about?
Nope.
Let's do it. Next one.
We're going to go to their next one is their most downloaded song off Napster back in the day, supposedly.
Yeah, this is my least favorite song.
Me too. I think it's the weakest song on here. It's called Slipknot, by the way.
Yeah, it's called Slipknot. Yeah, it's called Slipknot. That's why it's the most downloaded song on Napster, because people probably mistook it for the band.
Yep.
Slipknot. Even though Slipknot is thanked in the lyric in the liner notes for this album. But if you read the thing here, they say, let me just read it here. They say, of all the poor old loose songs to show up on Napster in great number, this one did. I always found that strange until I heard that there was a band called Slipknot. I can only imagine all those people who downloaded this song thinking it was that other band. Very amusing. But they thank Slipknot in the liner notes here. And maybe it's a different Slipknot. I don't know. Maybe Slipknot was a coffee shop. I don't know. But because I think a lot of things in those liner notes. It's long. But anyways. Okay. I don't want to talk about this song a lot, Jay, because I don't like it very much.
It's got some kind of typical poor old loose stuff. It's got a little bit of funky stuff, which they do in some other songs. It's got Scott being a little bit of like sassy almost at places, because he's like, it's got some of that in it.
That's actually the one part I wanted to hit, because what I'm gonna play here is the second half of the first verse through the chorus, which ends with, as Jay says, it's pretty great.
And confused, I think I keep the devil amused, but I believe that his lies are true. But beyond the haze, I know which glory remains. I need
Pretty good. I like that part, yeah. I'm not saying it's a bad song. I'm just saying that, like, when it came to break down these songs, I was like, this one is not worth my energy, Jay.
Yeah, I think it's the weakest one out of all these.
It's not, yeah. I may hate, we'll come back to it. Okay. I do want to play one other part, just because the funkiness is added. There's a bass line here, which I think is really, really shines on this is going to be, I think, the end of, like a little instrumental area and then into the third verse.
Ever all you can hear, like a siren that just fills up your ears. Would you let it go and throw your arms to Christ so close? My need.
All right, lyrically, do we want to break this one down? I think the second verse, like the second part of the first verse, and confused. I think I keep the devil amused when I believe that his lies are true. But beyond the haze I know, which glory remains. I think that's pretty great. And there's another verse that says, and hate, it seems to run this world just great. Will they turn on time or roll in too late? There's no turning around on our knowledge now. Isn't that interesting? On our knowledge now. All right. So, I think that a lot of the verses on this are kind of fun. They're kind of great. They're nice observations / diagnoses of struggles and problems with our world. What's confusing about this song is I made the mistake, probably like you, of reading their explanation of the topic of this song, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's very weird. Like, okay, you want to read it?
Quote, as the brief text in the album cover alludes, this song is directed primarily towards the topic of indifference. Our indifference, of course, keeps us from many great things in the Lord, reaching out to others, more effective ministries, better friendship, better marriages, and so on. We must take our attitudes of indifference before the Lord so that he may change our hearts. He is willing and able.
And so, like, well, I enjoy all of these little verses. Okay, so the chorus is, my need I seek, in this hope I own, majesty I see, indifference is cold. And like, if I'm just listening to this song, Jay, and this isn't me trying to be a cynical asshole, if I'm just listening to this song, I feel like it's saying that God is indifferent. Do you get that?
No, but keep going.
That don't have a lot other than that. Like, but like in the last song, we talked a little bit about the darker Psalms and Job and Jeremiah, right? And like, because like if we're coming from that topic already, I think that it can feel like God is very indifferent, right? Like he's just there's evil in this world. It's the problem of evil, right? Like why, if there's an all-loving God who is all-powerful, why is there evil? Like why are we suffering, right? This is something that, this is almost the theme of the Old Testament, right? Like it's just an explanation of why are we suffering. It starts off with different ideas. It starts off with like, oh, we're suffering because we keep turning our backs from God, and then as time goes on, they're like, well, you know what, we're by the time we get to the Persians, we're trying to follow God, but they actually tried to kill us because we were worshiping our God. So why are we suffering now? And that's when we kind of get the Job idea, like, well, there's just someone in the world who is an evil, doer who is testing us, right? And by the time we get to the end of the Old Testament, with Daniel being written, we get into apocalypticism. That's a fun word to say. Where it's that, this world, it's not that we're being tested, it's that this world isn't even run by God. This world is run by the devil. This world is run by an evil force. But that's only going to last so long because, God's going to bring his kingdom again. But that's not what the song is about, Jay.
Right.
It should have been, maybe. But it's not what it's about. Because it's just about our indifference is causing these things, which I can see that. Okay, that's fine. But it's not what I get out of the song.
Yeah.
And once again, I think, okay, the chorus is, my need I seek, in this hope I own, majesty I see, indifference is cold. Once again, I think it's saying that by seeking my own needs, I'm doing something wrong.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Definitely. Definitely.
But this hope, the need is being sought in, quote, in this hope I own, which I always took to mean like salvific hope, like in salvation. Because the next line is majesty I see, which I assume that's saying like I see God. But then it's like indifference is cold. Like I don't know. It's a very confusing song. It doesn't. The problem I have with this song is that I had read their meaning, which was a bad idea. Because I feel like
should have just I know. I was kind of grateful to have their meaning behind the songs, and then I was like, yeah, maybe we should have just had our own.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well,
because without that, I think it's a very interesting song that struggles with the problem of evil.
Speaking of a song that their kind of description of the lyrics and their meaning of the lyrics definitely didn't ruin it, but hurt it for me. Do you want to go on to Digging Deep?
Let's do it.
Okay.
This song, Jay, is dominated by a guest appearance, and maybe it's the best song on the EP, right?
Yeah, it's the most memorable for sure. Yeah.
Are you going to say that the next song is better than this song?
No, you're right. All right, it's the best song.
Okay. Because I was going to nominate it for one of the best Poor Lou songs ever.
I think that's fair. Of course, if it didn't have Jeremy Enoch on it, let's be honest, it wouldn't be as good a song. Because all the memorable parts are when he's singing.
I don't think so. I mean, like, okay, yes. First off, you're not wrong, right? But I think a lot of it comes from the contrast between Scott and Jeremy.
True.
And I think that Scott does a great job on this song. Let's get into it.
Okay.
So the song starts off very like melodically with several instruments in addition to the standard band. We get some strings. We get a kalimba. A kalimba is it's like a handheld thing that has like little prongs on it, like a little metal prongs that you push down. They plunk plunk.
Yeah, and I totally thought it was a xylophone. Honestly,
I thought it was too because it sounds very woody.
Yeah, it
right?
sounds like a xylophone, but I guess it is that kalimba thing, which is kind of almost more interesting to me because that's, a lot of a cheaper instrument to have than a full blown xylophone. So
exactly, yeah. And once again, Aaron's actually on acoustic guitar for this song. A lot of the song is going to hang on this repeating lick that we're going to hear from the kalimba almost immediately. That little kalimba part there, I think to me, this is my interpretation, I think it has a very kind of timid hope feel. That's just my interpretation so far. Musically, this is a very simple song. It's just a 1-5-4 progression, which is very rock and roll. That's in punk songs. That's just a very, very typical rock and roll.
It sounds great with that instrument, though. Like it really gives it a different sound.
And on the acoustic guitar, and because it's not even that complicated of a rhythm or anything, but it just sounds, I don't know. There's a little bit of strings in there too, kind of pumping it up. And I think that as far, I tried to play along with this and it plays with major, it's plays with major, they're not all major chords, but with non sevenths or anything like that. But I think that the kalimba and the strings are hanging on sevenths. And maybe seconds a little bit every once in a while, which I think is giving it kind of that more moody feel that we've felt so far. As we finish up the intro here and go into the first verse, I want you to notice that there's no drums on this song except for a little bit of bongos. That's it. We get a little tambourine shake every once in a while.
So now hold your breath and set the stage. Prepare yourself for the cynic's rage. Is it a question still of who is man?
And so Scott's vocals there, I think, they're still very Scott, but they are a little bit different than his typical vocals. They're breathy. They feel introspective, which I guess is fitting considering this is a ballad. The lyrics aren't the easiest to understand. Usually Scott is very enunciative, but he's a little more mush-mouthed, to use a bad phrase, in this song. So it's not, but even then, even though you can't understand all the lyrics, it feels very smart and thoughtful, I think.
Yeah.
We're going to get into the chorus here, which Scott kind of has like a little falsetto thing going, and we get some more of that kalimba doing a different thing here. And so, unlike a lot of songs on this album, this one actually took a little time to breathe after the first verse and chorus. It is still very like Poor Lula, where it had like a really short chorus, which was kind of interesting that we just had Cody Hook and they had kind of the same thing going on, right? It's kind of more about verses. The choruses are usually a little bit poppy but short. All right, we're about to get in the second verse. Are you ready, Jay?
I'm ready.
I don't feel like everybody sit down. I don't feel like everyone's ready. Everybody sit the fuck down, okay?
Gone through life and death and what remains. If any blemish, hang your head in shame. Like a fever that just keeps you down. Would you simply let it stay around?
Taking deep, I guess I say. Here's my pride for nearly self-attained. In truth, I know that it is clear. I was distant, God is near.
So we get Jeremy Enoch there with his kind of like slightly nasally, somehow both strained and smooth, just gorgeous, emotive voice. And much like Jeremy Enoch almost always is, it's very hard to tell like if it's mournful or celebratory. He kind of walks this weird line with his vocals a lot, And I think it's this feeling, this kind of like mystical quandary that's at the heart of this song. Like I don't even know. We'll come back to the lyrics later. Doesn't matter what they're talking about because I just want to talk about like emotionally, musically, how this song feels. It feels like the emotional resonance of this song is teetering on not knowing whether to celebrate beauty or mourn despair. Because like celebrating beauty is rapturous and it feels great, right? But it's also dangerous if it opens you up too much to despair, right? And that's kind of what I always hear with this song, is that it's just walking this razor thin edge between these two things.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times I'm not listening to lyrics and songs, but this is one I really don't think you actually need to. It's just got such feeling in it. It's just such a good song, full of so many emotions. Really, really like it. Yeah.
And then for the chorus there, Scott came back in with Jeremy doing the backing vocals behind him. And I do want to say that, like, I think Scott does a great job here with his vocals. It's hard not to be outdone by Jeremy Enoch, right? But I think that Scott's vocals on this song are also fantastic. I think that the soul that he's putting into them, and then that contrast between him and Jeremy, is part of what makes this song gorgeous. And I think even if it was just Scott singing this song, I think it would still be a really, really good song. I think that Jeremy just pushes it over the edge into greatness. As we move forward here, we're going to, once again, breathe a little bit as we, between the verse, or after the chorus here. kind of with that opening riff again. And we're going to go into a bridge here that, once again, is going to start with a minor chord because this is Poor Old Lou.
When the goodness and strife found an empty one saying life. No salon made no sound. With his I bowed myself down.
Won't you greet this man and hear his words? Maybe an open ear would make him stir. Cool a close heart to Saint man.
So the third verse there, Scott and Jeremy are singing together. But that bridge is just, Jeremy comes in with those, like, that kind of falsetto at the edge of his, like, upper vocal range that he does so beautifully where he misses notes and it has a beautiful dissonance to it. That's I don't know. It's hard to I spent a long time trying to describe what makes Jeremy's vocals so special in general, and it's hard. But it's I don't know. He's really good.
This song is also on their in their final performance album, that live CD.
Oh, really?
And Jeremy does it with them again, and it sounds like, I mean, his vocals are very similar to this. Like, he kind of nails it again. This and the next song, For Love My Country, are the two that make the cut on that final show.
Yeah, that one opens the album. Yeah. So the song ends with Scott repeating the first verse, which is very effective, I think. A lot of times when people repeat the first verse at the end of a song, it's kind of lazy, but I think here it actually does have emotional impact. And the little kalimba lick ends beautifully unresolved.
I was distant, God is near. So now hold your breath and set the stage. Prepare yourself for the cynic's rage. Is it a question still of who is man? Or how they feel in what I am?
Gorgeous song.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what to say about it. It's just so good. Like earlier in the album, we were talking about, if I want to, I'll lie in the grass and stare at the clouds. This song is lying in the grass and staring at the clouds. It's I don't know. It's refreshing. And I remember as a kid, like, honestly, hearing it today has no less impact on me. Because a lot of times, like, I think we talked about, like, with Craig's brother, like, I kind of wish I could hear his vocals for the first time again, because they're so unique.
Yeah.
But this song, like, when Jeremy comes in, it hits me just as hard today as it did back then. And I didn't know who Jeremy was back then,
Just this guy with a weird voice, cool voice. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think it hits just the same today. It doesn't lose anything from repetition, which is saying a lot. That's yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I loved this song as a kid. Like, even though I always listened to this album straight through, this was a song that I treasured.
Yeah, me too. Even though I was normally like, oh, it's a little bit slower, but this was the one I made the exception for.
Yeah.
It's just such a beautiful song.
Yeah. So in the liner notes, Jay, for every song it lists the guest musicians. I'm here for guest lead and backing vocals. It has Jeremy Allen Enoch. On kalimba is Aaron. And then we have here, first off, do you know who Jazzy Sprinkle is? Is that one of the Sprinkle brothers? That's actually
Jesse Sprinkle. He just goes by, sometimes he goes by Jazzy Sparkle on some of the other ones.
Okay, so, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Okay. But it lists here as what he's playing for this song is Nile Spice, Tin Can, Drum, Oshiko, and Tambourine. And there definitely is drums and tambourine and a tin can in this song. What the fuck is Nile Spice and Oshiko? Like, Oshiko is definitely just sushi, a type of sushi, right?
No idea.
Because I tried to look these up as instruments, and I cannot find anything on them. Nile Spice is a spice, but like a spice mixture. But I couldn't find anything with these being, unless they're just like weird names that they use. I don't know. It was just very weird. I couldn't figure this one out. All right, shall we talk about the lyrics?
I guess.
I know, right? It can only be disappointing, right?
Yeah, because these are. It's okay for me. I'm like, it's okay to not know what it means, But especially those lines, like what Jeremy sings, just kind of get them in your head, and I don't know what the hell they're talking about, but whatever, it's fine.
Yeah. All right, so I'll read the lyrics here. Okay, so now hold your breath and set the stage. Prepare yourself for the cynic's rage. Is it a question still of who is man, or how they feel and what I am? Digging deep, I found a way. What more do I need to say? Second verse. Gone through life and death and what remains. If any blemish, hang your head in shame. Like a fever that just keeps you down, would you simply let it stay around? Digging deep, I guess I say, is more pridefulness of that day. In truth, I know that it is clear. I was distant, God is near. This is the bridge that Jeremy sings. In the goodness and the strife, found in empty wanting life, though so long made no sound, with tears I bowed myself down. And into the last verse here. Won't you greet this man and hear his words? Maybe an open ear would make him stir. Could a closed heart have saved all man? So now hold your breath and set the stage. Prepare yourself for the cynic's rage. Is it a question still of who is man, or how they feel and what I am?
I was cool not knowing about it, and then I made the mistake of reading what the song's about.
Yeah, because, without reading what the song is about, this feels like just a struggle, right? It just feels like a song about struggling with life, right? Like, I don't really know what the whole thing is with, prepare yourself for the cynic's rage is. But, I think it's just, for me, it was always just like something else in life, another thing thrown in your path, that trips you up, that's hard to deal with. And into the chorus, but digging deep, I found a way. What more do I need to say? You just continue to survive. And that's true for the second verse. Gone through life and death and what remains. If any blemish, hang your head in shame, which I feel deeply, right? Like, there's anything wrong with you, you should be ashamed of that. That's definitely a value that I think we took from growing up in evangelical Christianity. But then I like the follow-up lines here, which is, like a fever that just keeps you down, would you simply let it stay around? Which could mean the blemish, and probably should mean the blemish, but also I think for the shame. Why would you let the shame stay around when it does nothing good for you? Mm-hmm. And then into the bridge that Jeremy sings here, in the goodness and the strife, found an empty wanting life, though so long made no sound, with tears I bowed myself down. Which I'll even give that this is very obvious, kind of going back to that first song, and a bridge that brings a resolution by coming back to God, but I think it's still beautiful how it's expressed here, that life does seem empty at time, and that sometimes you just need to stop and either you reevaluate or you give yourself up to God if you need a crutch, I guess. Sorry to be an asshole. But then I really appreciate this last verse here, which is, won't you greet this man and hear his words? Maybe an open ear would make him stir. Could a closed heart have saved all man? Because the answer to that last question is obviously no, right? Like, instead of just putting your head down and keeping going, maybe let's give some other ideas a chance, right? Let's open ourselves up to some new ideas and to some new resolutions to our problems and our troubles. And maybe there's something else that's worth listening to. Maybe we shouldn't just put our heads down and keep going and shut everything else out, you know? And then coming back to the last the verse, which is a repetition of the first one, because even if you do reevaluate and take on new ideas, you still have to get back on with life and face all the troubles that it's going to throw at you.
Should I read what they tell us these lyrics are about?
Fuck no.
Because I read them and then I was like, oh, so the song is like Tract Boy.
Read it, Jay.
All right, here we go. Quote, Digging Deep is a song focused on reaching out to others, that is, with the gospel. It is frightening, it is difficult, it is unnerving to put yourself out on a limb so much, but it is absolutely the calling of our Lord. There are times, however, when we don't heed the word of God and we won't share with someone. It could be that a seed will never be planted in them. The song ends with the first verse again, but the idea is that this time we're going to follow through, though we are scared. I know, that really just completely kills it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Fuck them. Fuck. Yeah. It's. You know, when we did 121, I made a proclamation that I didn't care what the lyrics actually were. I was just going to keep my own meaning for it, you know? And I think that's what I'm going to do here is I'm going to keep my own meaning.
Fair.
For this song. Because otherwise I have to accept prepare yourself for the cynic's rage as how they interpret how people react to them when they annoy them with trying to get them saved over and over and over again.
I said, excuse me, there's someone you ought to meet. You ought to meet.
She said, oh no, and turned and walked away. She walked away.
Whoa, oh, okay. Anyway, sorry. Some people
I don't think we need to go back in. We go back and listen to the last episode with Cody Hook. We've already discussed this topic, and I don't want to discuss it again.
All right.
And it's tragic that is their meaning for this song.
I know, because it's a beautiful song. All right, should we go to number 5?
Yes.
For the love of my country.
Yeah, go ahead. I hate this song, Jay. It's not the worst song on the EP, because like there's no bad songs on the EP, right? Even though the second song or the third song, whatever it was, I don't love it, you know?
Yeah.
I find this song annoying.
Interesting.
I think it's repetitive and annoyingly rock and roll and doesn't say anything, even though I think they think it says something. It doesn't. So as we were discussing this, you're going to take the song, right?
Sure.
All right. Tell us about this song, Jay.
You know, it starts off guitar strumming and then the whole band comes in really loud. It's got a nice kind of intro, and it's clear that this is like the loudest, most rocking song on the EP. This is one of their more louder rocking songs, just like period. And it's just like, it's got this nice propulsion the whole way through from the drums and bass, just kind of pushing it through. And it's, I don't know. I like it a lot. I also, you know, pretty big Poor Old Lou fan. So this is a little bit of a departure for them as well. This is not normally like what they do, but I kind of like this turn. And it's got a few little start-stop moments through it too, which I'm always a fan of. And yeah, I just like it. Can we play the beginning? That gives you a gist, because it's that guitar part is repeated throughout. It's almost it's not the chorus, but it almost is because it's so memorable.
Country, hey, one man pinned up and traded away for the love of this country, hey, yeah. For the love of this country, man, how we lay down to lover's land. For the love of this country, man, he is all.
And I saw you nodding your head, Clifton, because you can't help it.
Look, it's not bad.
Yeah.
There's no bad song on this album. I just don't like this one. I want to play the the bridge into the final verse here, because I think that has I think it explains the entire song, honestly.
What can I say? Run and hide. How can I be? Do you see this place? Do you see this race? For the love of this country, hey, would I live so to fade away? For the love of this country, hey, will I fall?
I love that part where they pause and Jesse does the drum click, like, the drumsticks click. I think it's fun. Again, this is not... Poor Old Blue is not normally so like rock, pause, stop. Like, that's not as much them normally.
Yeah.
And so this was kind of a fun song with that. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Fun fact, and again, I'm doubting myself a little bit on this, but I'm going to say it, is when I was 16 or 17, my friends and I made a little fanzine only one time. So it's too much work, but we interviewed Aaron Sprinkle for it. This was post Poor Old Lou because we found a phone number somewhere. He was very kind, but I'm almost positive, and I don't even have a copy of this lying around anymore to verify, but I'm pretty sure we asked what his favorite Poor Old Lou song was, and I think at the time he was saying this was like his favorite. So there you go, Clifton.
All right. Do you want to talk about the lyrics for this?
I mean, I will say at least this one is about a slightly different topic.
It is.
Than the others, so that's nice. And you can probably get a sense of like what this song is about just by the title of it. But I can read them, yeah, and we can talk about it if you want.
All right, go for it.
Lyrics are for the love of this country, hey, one man pinned up and traded away. For the love of the country, hey, he is ... For the love of this country man, how he laid down to love his land. For the love of this country man, he is all. And the chorus is, but what can I say? And in the background they say, oh yeah, run and hide.
No.
How can I be?
Low.
And then he says, do you see this place?
Gone away, gone away, gone away.
Do you see this race?
Gone away, gone away, gone away.
And then he says, for the love of this country, see how we shake our fist angrily. For the love of this country, see, we are so... and then he finishes out, for the love of this country, hey, would I live so to fade away? For the love of this country, hey, would I fall? I think this is kind of about... I mean, I can read you what Scott said, but it basically...
No, just on the lyrics, what's this song about?
I mean, I think it's kind of about like, am I going to live for my country or am I going to live for something greater? Seems to be the kind of the message, right? Like, I can get caught up in all this nationalism stuff, or I can care about something even deeper. God.
Does it say that?
That's kind of how I took it, because that seems to be every song on this is somewhat about that. But
Sure. I don't know. And I think it makes some good observations. Like, I love the line, how we shake our fists angrily.
Yeah.
That's maybe my just political bent, though, I just feel like it doesn't say what they think. Like, okay, what you said there is what they say the song is about. Should I get caught up in my country or should I serve God? And I think that topic even has a lot of importance today, especially for evangelicals, right?
Oh, yeah.
They spend so much time caught up on their power within the country that they spend no time thinking about, well, let me put it like this, as I saw this meme today. They spend a lot of time thinking about how they can how they can force other people to take up the cross, and they don't spend any time thinking about how they can take up the cross.
Mm.
But I don't think it says that. I think it falls short of saying that. I think it falls short of being clear about anything. I think if you wanted to, if you read this with a nationalistic patriotic mindset, you could take that away from it too.
Yeah, probably.
For the love of this country, hey, one man pinned up and traded away. For the love of this country, hey, he is. And then for the next verse, he is all, right? Because he laid down to love his land, right? He died to love his land. He is all.
Mm-hmm.
Would I live so to fade away? Would I fall for my country? People can be like, I don't know, man. Like, that's rough. I don't know if I would. But, like, nowhere in here does it say, but what about a different focus?
Well, that's where I think he's saying, do you see this place? And in the background, gone away, gone away, gone away. Do you see this race? Gone away, gone away. Like, it's all temporary.
Let me interpret that nationalistically, okay? Do you see this place? I know it's getting harder to say because of them goddamn minorities, right? Do you see this race? Do you see the white people fading away, gone away, gone away, gone away? Because what else the fuck does that mean, Jay? Do you see this race? What does that mean other than, do you see the white people going away? You know, because the Jews are replacing us?
Fair. I really hope that's not what they mean.
What does that line mean, though, Jay? Do you see this race? Is it talking about race, or is it talking about like a rat race?
Race to run. Like I'm the race of life. You know, like I'm running in this race.
Yeah. I'm just saying that they did not do a good job of writing a very clear song. If their intention was to not be nationalistic, they did a bad job.
Fair. I think the song rocks. I still like it.
Yeah. It's not a bad song. There's no bad songs in this EP. It's just not my favorite.
You want to go to the last one?
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. This was the song I skipped the most as a kid. Not a surprise probably to Clifton because I was like, oh, slow song. Never mind. But I enjoyed listening to it for this. To be completely honest, I'm not sure I'd ever listened to it all the way through. So enjoyed it quite a bit. And when I heard the original version, by the way, this is a cover. That was kind of cool too. This is called Speak Soft, and it's a cover by a band called The Swoon that only, I think, put out or at least one kind of distributed album in 1990. I think they had some other stuff, but
I think they had like a demo, and I think they started maybe to record a second album, but they never finished it. It looks like, but they were a Christian band. They mostly existed during the 80s. This album came out in 1990. So they were mostly around in the 80s. Most of their stuff kind of looks like an 80s indie rock, you know, kind of influenced by REM and Guided by Voices and that kind of stuff. You know?
Yeah, definitely that kind of late 80s sound.
Yeah. It's not bad, honestly. This is, for the most part, this is a very true rendition of this song. Poor Lou does bring more heft, I think, to it because they can't not because they're Poor Lou, you know.
Yeah.
But it's if you go listen to the original, you're not gonna hear a different song. Okay, it's the same song, but Poor Lou does do a few different things, which we'll touch on here. I just want to go ahead and read what the band said about this because I think that their input on why they covered this song is important. Said, a wonderful song. Although The Swoon only recorded one album that we know of, it was all that we needed. In fact, it was difficult to pick which track to record. We just knew that we wanted to cover one of their songs. As we started to work through the parts of the song, it really started to come together. Nick's bass was recorded with the snare drum chain loose, so you can hear a little rattle. Aaron mimicked the acoustic parts perfectly. The aggressive bridge was our own twist on things. But fitting, I think. Finally, we added a Beatles-esque day in the life build-up ending to finish it off. It came out just as we wanted. What more can I say? I'll just add the notes from the Straight Six album cover. One of the most influential bands in our musical development. The Swoon wrote this beautiful, tragic song back in 1989. The album was heard by too few people, and the respect that is deserved of the band, the album, and this song was never given them either. May they consider themselves very highly honored in our musical lives, possessing songs that we wish we had written. However, this is the best that we can do. The words to this song paint a wonderful and terrible picture of confusion, fear, and consequence. I pray that the last two lines especially would be smelling salts for all of us in the past that we choose. We'll come back to that later. So I think one of the first things I do first off is the original song is acoustic and it's very straightforward, whereas once again, Aaron has kind of like a phaser or chorus type effect here, which makes it feel a little off kilter, which I think is a great effect for the song. I think it really contributes to making the song feel like more of what it should have been the first time.
Jerry had some beers and started to sing. He knows what he means, he don't mean a thing. He waited for the wisdom years would bring to him. On the refrigerator door are the words he had written moments before. It says, I hope I never have to go to war. Speak soft, baby, don't you talk to me, to me, to me.
I really like that. I mean, I think it's beautiful. It is a slow song. I can see how you can be bored with this, Jay, but it is a beautiful song, and the lyrics are beginning to tell an interesting story.
I did really enjoy listening to it for this, and they get some build and some crescendo in it, which I like quite a bit, which is not really in the original as much, but I think it really adds to it, and it's a really nice cover.
I agree. So that's what I want to play next, is kind of that build and crescendo, because like Jay said, that's not in the original. They mentioned that too in their little take on it. The original kind of just had like a short little interlude, little musical interlude, but poor Luke is a little bit jam bandy here, but it really works.
To me, to me.
Back into the song. And once again, they do something similar at the end of the song here. You can make the argument that's a little pretentious, but I think it's an emotionally appropriate way for Prelude to kind of end out their artistic adventure on this popular little album.
I agree. It's a great song to close with. In fact, I wish they would have stopped there and not added the little hidden track at the end.
Yeah, there's a hidden track, which is we'll talk about in a minute.
Yeah.
All right. Do we want to talk about the lyrics here? I mean, it's a story about this guy Jerry. It's a little confusing at times. I'm confused by it at times. Maybe. Let me read the lyrics here. Jerry had some beers and started to sing. He knows just what he means, he don't mean a thing. He waited for the wisdom years would bring to him. On the refrigerator door are the words he had written moments before. It says, I hope I never have to go to war. It's a nice line. Speak soft, baby, don't you talk to me. He goes to the dance and falls in love. Years later, it's still her he's thinking of. She never spoke once or even looked up. Enough. Speak soft, baby, don't you talk to me. Houdini closed himself inside a box. Yes, the magician Houdini. He didn't have a trick to spring the lock. On the stage, the people watched the clock. Prison could be a nice place to live. The bars on the window like bars on a crib. Freedom is the least desired gift to give. Speak soft, baby, don't you talk to me. Jerry had some beers and started to weep. It's time to turn away, it's his time to sleep. Don't trouble yourself with seeking peace. Go cheap. So, Jay, I think I understand the first verse.
Mm-hmm.
Jerry knows what he means. He doesn't mean a thing. He's kind of he's a young kid, having fun. He doesn't want to go to war. The second verse confuses me. He goes to the dance and falls in love. Years later, it's still her he's thinking of. She never spoke once or even looked up. Enough. Does that mean, are they together? Are they not together? Does that mean they didn't talk? And he's still pining for her? What's going on there, Jay?
That's how I took it, is he has a crush. He's still pining for somebody.
Okay. So the next verse here, the third verse here, I think it's the part about Houdini. That's fun. And then the prison could be a nice place to live. The bars on the windows like bars on a crib. That's a nice observation. Life feels like that, right? Sometimes what you're going through in life, even though you're free, may not be much worse than just being locked away. It definitely feels like that sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then freedom is the least desired gift to give. That's nice. Last verse. Jerry had some beers and started to weep. It's time for him to turn away. It's his time to sleep. I think he's dying.
I don't know. This part I'm confused about, and the last line I'm confused about too.
Right. So this is what whoever it was who wrote this for the band said. He wanted this to be like a smelling salt for everybody. Don't trouble yourself with seeking peace. Go cheap. So that can mean so many things.
Yeah.
I can take that in so many different directions. Is the go cheap there sarcastic? Is it tongue-in-cheek? Is it biting? Is it sincere? Is it... I don't know. What do we think?
I don't know.
Yeah, me either. And so, therefore, this is not like a smelling salt, because I don't know what they mean by this last line. If you know, please write us and enlighten our... open our closed eyes and let the scales fall from our eyes and help us to see. Yeah. So there is a secret track. So we talked a little bit about the little soundscapes that have been between each song. This is kind of the same type thing, just expanded. And then it continues like that. Kind of the voices kind of fade away, and the music box continues. It always sounded to me like a little vignette type thing, you know, like a family at a cookout or something like that. Kind of feel.
Yeah, they had on Sit and Stare. There was some kind of similar. I don't know. They kind of like stuff like that, like old music boxes and I don't know, little different things.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's the end, Jay.
What are your overall thoughts?
Before I get into my overall thoughts, I want to. People love this album, right? It's very special to a lot of people, and I understand why. It's very special to me too. I want to read a review from Amazon. It says, Straight Six is fantastic. Easily the most interesting and complex album released by Poorlu. Everything feels right in this album. The added orchestration and percussion in this album really add to the beauty of Straight Six. So do the vocal stylings of Sunny Day Real Estate's lead singer Jeremy Enoch. The conclusion of this album features a cover by early 90s rock band The Swoon. The cover is better than the original track. If you're looking for something that has been overlooked in the past, listen to this album. It's a darkly beautiful piece of work and won't disappoint. And I agree. I think there is a dark kind of melancholy beauty to it, which probably isn't surprising that I like that. The Medium summary of this, I think, is also very fitting. I'm not going to read the entire thing. But they say it's kind of a smooth distillation of Poorlu's corpus into a singularly accessible whole. I think that's very, very true. They say it's emotive without being emo. And they said the reason I continue to love and admire Poorlu is because the band encouraged me to be a thinking Christian who wasn't afraid of not knowing, even while still continuing to place my faith in God. The band was an island of honest, intellectual musings amidst an ocean of Christian acts, either towing the party line, like DC Talk, Audio Journal, or Newsboys, or being overly obscuratory. I don't know. Is that a real word? Anyways. Like many early Tooth and Nail bands. And, Jay, I think musically, I think this album still is top notch. You know, it's a very enjoyable, emotional adventure. I think it's a nice. It goes a lot of places and it does them well. But I'm going to come back to what I said earlier, which is that, you know, when I was a kid, I felt like this guy does, right? That this is a very thinking Christian's kind of album, right? And when I was a kid, I felt like there was a lot of spiritual struggle in this album. And as I look at it today, I see a bit of that, you know, it's there. It's not there. But it's sad that I thought this was a real thinking Christian's album, because there's hardly, honestly, any thinking in it. Yes, there is some struggling, but mostly it's kind of just setting up some sad and desperate situations and then being like, God can solve that, bam, done.
Which it maybe shows how kind of like vapid some of the stuff is. If you compare this to like, again, like an Audio Adrenaline or something, this may seem like thinking, you know, album, because so much of the stuff that's on like K-Love or whatever else, you know, is just pretty empty.
Exactly. Yes. And I think that's, having left this world and explored a lot of musical and art throughout the world now, our world, our little Western world here. I think as kids, we looked at what we were listening to and thought that it was so important and it was so full of meaning, whereas other music was empty and didn't offer anything. Whereas now I'm like, this is the emptiness to me. This is what doesn't have anything to offer to me. Not that it's nothing, but like when you compare this to real albums that struggle, like secular albums that struggle with these same kind of feelings, but in a secular sense, I think that this leaves a lot to be desired.
I think that's fair.
What do you think overall?
This is more musically rather than lyrically. Lyrically, I was disappointed going back through, but musically, it's funny. The first time I listened to it for this, I was like, oh man, this sounds more dated than I thought. Like, it's definitely got that kind of a little bit of like a 90s, early 90s, especially on some of the songs. I was like, huh. But then the more I listened to it, the more I really liked what they were doing musically in a lot of the songs. Like, it is beautiful. They're doing a bunch of fun stuff on this. Every song is different. Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. Lyrically, though, I was very disappointed, especially for like digging deep to see what they meant by this. Like, oh man,
yeah, that was disappointing. Yeah, and musically, I think it does sound very 90s. You're right about that, but it also pulls influences from all over the place and from all over. Like, it's pulling influences from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. And I think. But not in like we got to copy this because we got to be the number one act so we can get God's word out there. They're doing it playfully and with love. I think it's just it's artists taking the things that mean something to them and reworking them into new things. Yeah.
Any other thoughts on cover art, packaging, anything like that before we close out?
Yeah, so the packaging is really simple. It's the cover is just like a picture of a car with the words "Poor Lou" in straight 6, and straight 6 is in blue, kind of a fancier. I don't know if that's not the right word. What do you call this font, Jay?
I don't know. It's kind of got like a 60s throwback feel to it, doesn't it?
It does. Yes. There you go. Like a 60s movie feel, right?
Yeah,
it's also,
yeah.
As you scroll through, you get like. A lot of the credits look like movie credits, like on a movie poster. It's very simple, but I think it's very effective. Honestly, when you open it up, it's actually not a bifold or a trifold or a book. It actually opens up into a 2x2 kind of that's twice as big as the cover, And so the cover is part of one side of the art. I think it works really well. I think it looks cool. I loved it when I was a kid. I thought it was clever and fun. And then the inside of it is just all lyrics and thank yous and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's effective and it works. I like it.
Do you have an award for this album?
No.
Okay. Anything else you want to tell us where they are now? Or are we going back? If you want to know, go back to the Sin episode.
Exactly. Yes.
All right.
We still have the next album to cover, so maybe we'll do some more work on it then. It was just doing this much. We've already talked for over 2 hours about this. This was a lot of work to put in just for this. Yeah.
Thank you for those of you that stick with us this far. Probably a lot of people are like, those guys just don't shut up. But anyway. Clifton, you don't know what we're doing next, but I do.
Should I ask you?
Yeah, why don't you ask me?
Okay.
I've figured it out.
What are we doing on the next episode, Jay?
Clifton, we are going to do Javelina Rail Company's debut album, self-titled, from 1994.
Some more art pop. Cool. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you've even ever listened to this album?
Nope.
Oh, good. This will be fun to see I have not listened to it in basically since that time period.
Yeah.
And it will be fun to see your take on it.
Nice. Okay, I'm excited about that. Yeah. Cool. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Your Music Saved Us.
If you enjoyed your time with us, please leave us a review or share this episode. Visit patreon.com/YMSU to contribute and get extended episodes. Visit our website, yourmusicsavedus.com, to find out all the ways to listen. We're no longer on Twitter, but we are on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Join our Facebook group or follow us to keep up with the latest or interact with us, and send complaints and disagreements to yourmusicsavedus@gmail.com.
All right, the music in this episode is the work of Poor Old Lou and is used with apologies, not permission. They do have some merch and vinyl pressings of Sin on Bandcamp, so if you want to support them, go there. Also, once again, I'm going to put the individualized tracks, so you'll have like vocals, drums, bass, guitars, and if there's anything else, it'll be separated into different tracks if you want to play around with this album. I don't know, it was fun for me. I'm going to put that on Patreon. If you're a patron, you can get access to that, and all the sources are going to be in the show notes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye.